On today's episode of The Unwritten Rule, Kirby Moore did not leave Mizzou for Alabama, so we do not have that doomsday to talk about, which means we don't have too much by the way of Mizzou football news. So we're going to dive into men's hoops. We're going to preview the Ole Miss game. The Tigers, also for basketball, didn't have a game midweek, so not too much to get into there, but we'll preview that game a little bit, talk a little bit of recruiting, and then we have a great interview. We're going to kick it to ourselves. We talked to the manager and editor-in-chief of Blogging the Boys, the Cowboys SB Nation outlet. RJ Ochoa is their manager and editor-in-chief. We talked with him. Also works for San Antonio Sports Star, the radio station out in San Antonio, covers all things NFL, especially on the Cowboys. We had him on actually about like last year. So we did a longer interview with him a year on. He was at the Super Bowl at Radio Row. So we talked with him just about his experience there and some NFL stuff. We're diving into some more of those interviews now with Mizzou football kind of in the lulls of the off season. So it was a great interview with RJ. Good to have him back on the show. And then we're going to finish up with quick hits. We get jerseys of the week, Shawnee's Main Birds, and the best things we learned. So good show for you guys to dive into. Something fun, a little bit different with RJ's interview to sink your teeth into when there's not too much Mizzou football news, which for Mizzou fans is probably a good thing given what could have happened with Kirby Moore. So yeah, great show. Before we get started, quick word from our sponsors, Bet Online. Bet Online continues to be your number one source for all your basketball wagering needs, including pro and college hoops throughout the year. We're only like 4 weeks or 5 weeks away from Selection Sunday for March Madness. I'm so excited. And BetOnline has all the up-to-minute odds, stats, trends that you can follow as your favorite teams push for the playoffs and March Madness with in-game live betting, contests, and all the best player props. So experience the world's best wagering platform anytime from your desktop or mobile devices. Head to BetOnline today to become part of the team. And remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, BELIEVE. That'll get you a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. We don't have any Fantastic Four picks this week, and we do best beats on Monday. So I don't have any lines to read, except for some table tennis. If you want to bet on table tennis,
I'm gonna jump in here, Jack. I got a line. I got a line for you. BetOnline released their over/under on total wins for NCAA football teams today, and the Tigers are set at 9.5. If you take the under, it's -170. If you take the over on 9.5 total wins, that's +140. I'll bring Peyton in here as well. Let's see what you guys think.
Taking the over on it, Kenny. This is the year. Okay, we're gonna get into it later. Okay, this team is going to the playoffs. But no, 9.5 is really right around what I think would be. Yeah, I see Mizzou probably losing 2. I think they should win 10 though, man. I don't see them losing 3.
Yeah, I guess we do have some Mizzou football. We're gonna talk some way too early college football playoffs and quick hits. So right after the RJ interview, we'll dive into that. But yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. I would take the over. I like 10 wins at least. I like 11 wins. I like 12 wins.
I don't know.
No, I don't know. I like 10 wins again. I would take the over. What was the over right now? It's plus money, isn't it?
9.5. The under is +115. The over is -145.
Okay, so so the over's fair. Okay. All right. Well, there you go, Mizzou fans. So go to BetOnline. You can place a little future on Mizzou football and all the college basketball stuff. Where if you don't want to bet on Mizzou because are not going anywhere for that, but bet on some other March Madness lines. But anyway, with that, let's get the show rolling. Excited to dive into everything. Great interview with RJ coming up. And with that, the Unwritten Rules starts right now.
Marcel, where are you going with that disc? You are not putting that on again. Marcel, okay, if you press that button, you are in very, very big trouble.
Attention. Everybody stop what you're doing. It's time for The Unwritten Rule, a Mizzou sports podcast brought to you by the Believe Network, alongside Peyton Haverman and Kenny Van Doren. Here is your host, Jack Knowlton.
Welcome back to the Unwritten Rule. Today is Friday, January 16th. And Kirby Moore did not leave Mizzou football for Alabama. I think we should touch on that. I know I said we didn't have much by way of football, but we did have that, I guess, officially confirmed for us that Alabama did indeed go in another direction for their new offensive coordinator. So Kirby Moore staying. Quick thoughts on that. I guess just if you want to express your relief that Mizzou didn't have to replace both of its coordinators ahead of next season.
Yeah, crisis averted, basically. I mean, that would have been a total... there would have been no way to really spin that one. That would have totally really sank Mizzou pretty bad, because you got to think about it with offensive coordinators. Almost everyone hates their offensive coordinator. You don't really see a ton of people going around going, oh, yeah, I love my offensive coordinator. It's always the offensive coordinator's fault a lot of times. You don't see that with Mizzou. That's how you know you have a good one. Okay, Kirby Moore was very good. He had a couple goofy things that, I personally didn't love. The QB draw spamming on 3rd and goals, those drove me up a wall. But, I mean, there's no way you can look at last season and not think Kirby Moore, is a total star in the making. Thank God Mizzou got to keep him, because replacing him, especially this late in the cycle, would have been very, very tough.
Drinkwitz was happy too. Peyton, I want to give you credit. You had a good meme. It's a Marvel's meme with Gamora.
Wait, that's my quick hit. I have a quick hit about that.
Never mind.
It's in my quick hit. It's in my quick
single thing.
We'll get to that. No,
okay.
It's okay.
Well, yeah, Drinkwitz was happy. That's
he was happy. He was happy. I mean, of course, he was happy behind the scenes. Who wouldn't be? Like Peyton said, he gets to keep Kirby Moore. Yeah, I thought we'd just touch on that. Alabama promoted their tight ends coach to offensive coordinator, which I talked about could have been a possibility the last time we were on as an alternative to Kirby Moore. Also, Peyton clearly always has his mind on Kobe Brown. He almost called him Kobe Moore. I heard that, Peyton. Speaking of Kobe Brown, or his former team, at least, that's kind of, what we can get into. We don't have a Mizzou men's basketball to recap, our game to recap from the midweek, because the Tigers were on their bye. Thank goodness, perhaps, I guess, for our sake and maybe for the viewers' sanity. I don't know. Instead, we'll look ahead. The Tigers are back on the hardwood at 7:30 Saturday night. They keep getting these Saturday night primetime games, which just makes it so much harder to want to watch them. They are on the road. They take on Ole Miss. The Rebels have lost 3 straight. Those 3 games were to Auburn, South Carolina, and Kentucky. All 3 of them were ranked. Although South Carolina, after what Auburn did to them last night, I don't know if they should be ranked even at 21-4. That was, I don't know if you guys saw that, but that was wild. They won by like 40. Anyway, Ole Miss, Mizzou. I think the headliner for me in this game is the revenge game for two-time former future Tiger Jamarian Sharp, who was one of the trees the Tigers were looking at. But I don't know, with some time to not watch Mizzou men's basketball and maybe just think about their season and what all's gone wrong. I don't know if any thoughts have changed for you guys, but don't think the Tigers are winning this game.
No, they're still really bad in my mind. Rest assured. It's actually kind of interesting. It kind of goes to show how sad it is this year, because, I mean, this is a game last year, like when Mizzou was throwing elbows in the SEC. You'd look at a team like Ole Miss and we'd be like, oh, Missouri can beat this team. Like, this is a fake good team. Now it doesn't even really matter if they're fake good or not. They're absolutely going to beat Missouri. It's kind of been like some of the usual suspects that we've seen from Ole Miss that have been good this year, like over the last few years. I mean, it's Matt Morrell is leading the team in scoring with 16.8. Jamin Brakefield is still around there. He's averaging 11 and 5 pretty much. So, yeah, they do have like 2 really big bigs and Musa Cisse. They have Jamarian Sharp, of course. But it's really been the guard play for them largely. And familiar players in general. Also, on Jamarian Sharp, he is averaging 2.5 blocks a game. Dude is just an eraser down there. I'm trying to look for his rebounds per game. Only 4. So I guess he doesn't play a whole ton of minutes. But yeah, don't expect Missouri, even if Ole Miss is faker than fake. Don't expect Missouri to come away with this one.
This is our first time seeing Chris Beard in the SEC as well. Kind of crazy to think that he would have been in the SEC if things Didn't end the way they did at Texas 2 years ago, but now he's with the Rebels. This Ole Miss team, it's like the total opposite of the Tigers. 18-6. Tigers enter 8-16. The one thing I will point out is that, is it fair to say that these 7:30 games aren't necessarily prime time? I know prime time is the evening, but I feel like the best of college basketball is at 2, 3, noon on Saturdays.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I just the Tigers have are being pushed back to some of these game times, and it just feels like they deserve it. That they shouldn't really be on the eyes of the nation or around those 3 or 2:30 tips.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think they're also getting bodied on like SEC Network. They have to show them. They're going to show them on TV because it's it's an SEC school. They won't be on SEC Network Plus or anything in a conference game. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, Peyton summarized Ole Miss well. They also have Alan Flanagan, who's been around the SEC forever. He played for Auburn for like 4 years. So they'll win this game. They are a very frustrating like bubble team just from a college basketball like fandom perspective, because like Peyton said, they are very fraudy. They had some weird they went undefeated in non-con, but they had some weird games where they just they beat Detroit Mercy, America's team, who just won their first game of the season last night over IUPUI. Congrats to the Titans for finally, what are they, 1-26 now? That team only lost to Ole Miss by 1 point. So it's kind of they were kind of a weird flaky team in non-con, but they won. They ended up winning all of their games, and they've still been somewhat shaky in conference play. I think they're firmly a bubble team, but a firm bubble team is going to blow out Mizzou, I think is the easy summary to make there. So again, 7:30 SEC Network, you can catch that game. We'll see if maybe, I was going to say Mizzou's literally not going to come as close as Detroit Mercy is to beating Ole Miss. Just think about that for a second.
Thing about, I mean, I have them in quick hits as well, but the thing about Detroit Mercy is they have more wins when the calendar says 2024 than Missouri does.
They sure do. They sure do. Yeah. Oh, other thing I wanted to touch on too with men's basketball is I talked to Drew King. He listened to our episode on the scholarship count. There were 2 corrections because Power Mizzou, we alerted Drew to fixing the scholarship count. Peyton, unfortunately, Jesus Carolero, unfortunately for you, I guess, Jesus Carolero does have an extra year of eligibility, so he can come back.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, hallelujah. And then Caleb Brown is actually not on scholarship. That was the other fact. So he isn't taking up a spot there. Yeah, I think we're hoping that Dennis Gates kind of says to Jesus Carolero, just give him a little shove, maybe hold the door for him, give him a nice wave goodbye as he drives towards Fulton or wherever he's off to.
One also addition to that, I think some people might get confused. You can't really get out of your letter of intent if you already signed. The Tigers 5 signees have already they signed during the early period during mid-December.
Yeah, they're coming.
They can't get out of it unless Dennis or whoever recruited them on staff is no longer there anymore. And right now there's no one that's possibly getting fired that we know of. So all those guys are coming to Mizzou.
Yeah. Good note, Kenny. And again, we'll keep addressing the offseason stuff for men's hoops when that ends. Oh, one other thing we'll touch on too with recruiting. The Tigers offered kind of a fun prospect, I think, just from looking at where he's from and stuff like that. They offered a 7-footer named Andres Holst, who's from Denmark. So kind of fun. Peyton's not a big fan.
Another 7-footer that averages 5 rebounds a game against Danish competition. I'm good.
Yeah.
There's a handball goal on the court in this video.
In his highlights?
In his highlights. Yeah, this is a handball court as well. You can see the goal in the background.
Oh, yeah. Yep, you're right. I'm watching his highlights right now. There you go. Andres Holtz. At least he posted his own stats. These are his last 3 games. 17 points, 5.3 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 blocks, 47% from the field, 38% from deep. on 8.6 attempts per game. Yeah, you're not shooting that in the college level as a freshman, buddy. But who knows? We'll hold out for Andres. I did look up on it.
Only a junior.
He's got time. Class of 2025. I did look up and when this came through, there are approximately 2 players who went to the NBA from Denmark, Lars Hansen and Gabriel Lundberg. So if you know either of those 2 players, props to you. I don't, but maybe Andres can be the third, coming from the Dennis Gates pipeline. But yeah, with that, we will segue. We are going to kick it to ourselves with great interview coming up, and a little non-Mizzou stuff. But we did ask RJ about Nick Bolton in the Super Bowl because we had to. But we had a good interview with RJ Ochoa. Nice to have him back on. Talk to him again. He's just a great guy. Knows his stuff about NFL. So definitely stick around for that. We're going to do these types of interviews, just having these fun sports people on, because it's just cool, kind of different content, especially in the midst of the off season here. So with that, we'll kick it to ourselves, talking to RJ. Okay, we now welcome on a very special guest, a recurring guest. We haven't talked to him in over a year, so we're happy to have him back on. It's RJ Ochoa, the manager and editor-in-chief of Blogging the Boys, the Cowboys designation, if you will, on SB Nation. He's also a host for San Antonio Sports Star, so you can listen to him. He's got podcasts, Blogging the Boys. RJ, you've been busy, especially recently with the Super Bowl, which I want to ask you about. But I know Kenny told me off air he has something very, very dire to ask you first, so I'm throwing it to him.
Kenny's my voice. Let's hear it.
I'm going to report in. This is an eligible question. I'm going to report this one in real quick. RJ, does it feel like weird at all that Mizzou has a more eligible win at AT&T Stadium than the Cowboys do?
Kenny, we're great friends, and so I'm happy that you feel comfortable enough to rid me this way. I've heard it all. You gentlemen are probably too young to remember, but UConn won the Final Four at AT&T Stadium, and at the time there was a lot of like UConn has more playoff wins in the building than the Cowboys do. The Packers have as many playoff wins, or they have one fewer playoff win than the Cowboys in the building. So the building has existed since 2009. And they've never hosted an NFC Championship game. I mean, it's remarkable. And I've gone full heel with them this offseason. So like, bring it. Like, if you want to pour salt in this wound, like I'm the first one lining up to do it.
Well, that was a good answer. Didn't mean anything by it. I'm just very excited that Mizzou actually got to play in a big stadium like Jerry World and came away with a win the day before, actually, that game happened for the Cowboys and Lions.
Good for them. I've got no beef with Mizzou. It's a fight in Texas Aggie. You would think that I would, but I'm all good. So go Tigers, I guess.
Kenny was just in. He just went to Mizzou when Mizzou played A&M in basketball the other day. He went to.
I don't know when Kenny sleeps. I don't know how you guys keep track of this guy. Like he's everywhere all the time. You guys make me feel like I'm not working hard enough. So I admire you greatly.
No, he does the same for Peyton and I. He's just on the clock.
RJ, if there's like anyone like that I follow on Twitter, I think you were the one that doesn't sleep. I see you up at like midnight and then up at like 5 a.m. tweeting about the Cowboys or anything else. So maybe I get it from you.
I'm very fortunate and very blessed, and I wouldn't trade my life for anything. But every now and then it's nice to get a nap or two. I'll say that.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, we know you've been busy. I do want to dive into this because you were on Radio Row at the Super Bowl, and you talked to a lot of people. I have like a full list. I'll just read off some of the names. Like I saw you were talked to Jalen Waddle and Barrios, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. You talked to Dan Marino, Matt Ryan. Like, just what was it like? And our personal favorite, by the way, was Bert Kreischer. It was cool to see that you got to interview him. We're big fans. But just can you take us just through your week and if you have a coolest conversation you had, who was that? I know Myles Garrett, I'm sure, is up there for you. I watched that interview. That was awesome.
Yeah, thank you. So this was my 5th Radio Row that I've been to, and my first hosting a morning show. Our show airs 6 to 10 a.m. Central, which is as awful as it sounds in the Pacific time zone. Now, stuff like this, you do a lot of taped interviews, as you all well know. But that almost made it worse. I mean, because we had to we were waking up at 2:30 and making the trek over there just to, jump on for 15 minutes and then sit back for another 45 and not fall asleep. But it was really cool. I went to Las Vegas when I was closer to y'all's age, right when I turned 21. And that was my only real experience with it, which was a very different sort of adventure than this. And it's I mean, it's everything that, I always wanted to be. It's very cool to get to talk to people and kind of break bread and bump fists and things like that. And ask your heroes and people who you admire and these incredible people and humans and athletes, all sorts of fun questions. And so you don't get to sleep a lot. And that's just kind of the gig. And that's what I love about it. I'm kind of, I don't ever feel like I work a day in my life, just because I do things that I'm really passionate about and that I have a high level of interest in. And so to get to share that with so many people throughout the process of Radio Row is really cool. In terms of, great stories, Bert told me that I had an interesting last name, and I told him that like that doesn't happen a lot to me. I have Kitty has a great last name. It's a cool last name. Like Ochoa is so awkward, and so nobody ever feels that way about me. Tony Pollard was cool from a Cowboys perspective, and he was there on behalf of Sleep Number, and this isn't an ad for them, but he did. Yeah, he gave me a pillow. Now sometimes like if people walking around with whatever product they're pushing, but they very rarely give you something. So the fact that he gave me a pillow of all things was very cool. It was a little difficult to bring home, but it made it nonetheless.
I was gonna ask, is that pillow in use now? I mean, it's got to be, it's a Tony Pollard pillow.
I'll be honest. I thought that it was, I was going to try it obviously because the story's really cool. And I thought like, man, this is going to suck. And then I'm going to just have to like accept that I don't get to use this. But so far, so good. So far it's comfortable. It's cool. It's just continued product placement for Sleep Number in my life.
Yeah. No free ads, but there you
exactly.
go. It worked. Nice.
Switching over, I mean, you kind of mentioned it there at the end and earlier that you've kind of gone full heel on the Cowboys. So obviously we all know what happened in the postseason. Another kind of flame out for them. They lost Dan Quinn. They bring in Zimmer. I mean, where are you at with this team at this point? I kind of want to hear just what your thoughts on what needs to change maybe to get over that hump.
I carried a lot of water for them, and it never felt like water carrying. I defended Mike McCarthy a lot, and I was asked a lot, last year and throughout training camp and even throughout the season, do you fire Mike McCarthy if they don't reach the NFC Championship game? And my answer was always along the lines of, well, how does that not happen? What is the context? Like, do they miss out because of a clang off of the upright? Is there a poor rule or a poor officiating moment that is just kind of this bitter thing for them, or do they get smoked in the playoffs? And I think that what happened against Green Bay in the wild card round was probably among just a handful of possibilities that could have yielded the emotions that I have, at least. And I'm not a real fan of the way they've chosen to go about this, what with it being a contract year from McCarthy, that just kind of sets things up to go rather poorly in my mind. I was not a fan of Dan Quinn returning, so in that sense I was really pleased. But the Mike Zimmer thing, all kind of unfolded throughout Super Bowl week, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist by any stretch, like with anything like Bigfoot or anything like that. It's not my thing. But I am in no way of the belief that this was not masterfully executed by the Cowboys. I mean, the initial report that they were set to hire Mike Zimmer came as, players were arriving on the red carpet at NFL honors, the same NFL honors in which the Cowboys got skunked and didn't win a single award. Then there was the news of Rex Ryan, obviously, in general, that kind of took over Radio Row. The conversation and subject hovered in the air throughout Super Bowl weekend and was discussed on all the national shows all throughout Super Bowl Sunday. And then even on the day after the Super Bowl, when it should just be a coronation of the Chiefs and their dynasty, people are talking about an ESPN employee and Adam Schefter going on an ESPN production in the Pat McAfee show, connecting an ESPN employee in Rex Ryan to the Dallas Cowboys. It just all has felt so Dallas Cowboys, and that's fun in a heel, WWE sort of way. But it's just, I don't know if y'all are fans of the television show Succession, and I know people, connect a lot of memes to that, but it feels so similar to Logan Roy's, I love you, but you're not serious people. I do care for them greatly, but I just can't view them as a competent organization, at least in this current moment.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about some of the stuff you'd been writing about recently, like along those same lines. Like, I know Jerry Jones, he said the whole thing about how they're going all in with like the contract stuff. And you kind of wrote, that could either mean a world of things or that could mean, nothing. And obviously, we all know Jerry Jones and the personality he is and the way that he chooses to run his team. You just articulated that there. I mean, yeah. What's your kind of thoughts on that? And, where does it kind of go from here if they do want to be, that serious organization, I guess, at least in your eyes?
I mean, yeah, I'm starting to lean more and more towards the negative side of the spectrum as far as the all-in comment. It does feel like, they'll very easily and objectively be able to justify it by saying, look, we gave Dak a lot of money, we gave Mike a lot of money, we gave CD a lot of money. We're all in. You took that how you wanted to when I said it, when Jerry knows full well what those words tend to mean when it comes to roster construction in any sport. And so it's really difficult. And I don't enjoy this because I feel like I am generally an optimistic person, but it's hard to find, this is something that we've kind of been grappling with over the last month, is like, what could realistically and feasibly happen to have them earn anybody's trust back? In fact, Mike McCarthy was asked that direct question by Jane Slater at his postseason press conference. She asked him, and I really respect her for doing so. She said, "Why should fans believe in you?" And it's just a really blunt thing, but that's where they're at. They have burned all benefit of the doubt. And it feels like a lot of teams are in that boat, to be fair. I don't think that they're alone there necessarily. But I really don't know. They can get out to like a 10-0 start. Are we going to trust them? No. You know what I mean? For them, it's all about what happens in the postseason. And I've never really put a lot of stock into the drought that they're fighting and the shadow that it casts over the organization. But it does now more than ever feel like it is such a heavy crown that they all wear, that they are fighting, ghosts of the past and doing everything they can tirelessly and effortlessly to finally be the team that puts an end to it all. And that's a really exhausting way to live, obviously.
Yeah.
With it being more like the mock draft season, the Cowboys might have some needs, and you'll know a lot more about that. But I believe is Brian Martin, who wrote one of the most recent mock drafts at Blogging the Boys. No Mizzou guys in there. But I will say, if you need a cornerback, Ennis Rakestraw's out there. If you need a left tackle, right tackle, Javon Foster. I mean, what are some of the needs that the Cowboys need going forward?
This is a fence riding answer, and I hate that. But so much of what they're going to do depends on they're facing a fork in the road with Dak Prescott, and that will dictate how all in or not all in they're going to be for this season specifically. In case any of you or your audience is unaware, Dak currently carries a $60 million approximately cap hit for this season, and that's just untenable. And he has a no tag clause, he has a no trade clause. He's set to be a free agent after this coming season, and so he doesn't have like most of the leverage. He has all of the leverage in the world against them, and so they could choose to sign him to an extension and make him the highest paid player in the history of the NFL, which will at the very least create enough content to put food on my table for the summer. Or they can choose to restructure him and just alleviate salary cap space for this season. They could create about $18 million in cap space and set him up to become a free agent next season. And, I love Dak and have supported him and continue to support him. But given his age and the timeline of everything involved and that they might have a new head coach next season, it is fair, I think, to consider maybe hitting the overall reset button a year from now. They're in this weird, hokey pokey, half in, half out kind of place. And so once they make that decision, whether they extend Dak or they restructure Dak, it will obviously indicate how much salary cap space they have to work with. And if they choose to extend him, it will provide an assessment position to where we can say, well, you are continuing to build not just for now, but the future. And so you can't necessarily go for broke and go for all these free agents or whatever the case may be, because you have to continue to thrive beyond just 2024.
Yeah. I'm going to pivot off maybe the kind of upsetting topic that the Cowboys have become for you and pivot to a more not much better one. I'm going to be honest. The Spurs. Obviously, now you're on the radio in San Antonio, so I figure I'd ask you about it. You got the Spurs golf shirt on. What's going on with them, man? I mean, people expected maybe not a postseason appearance with Wemby, but I don't think many people saw them like at the bottom of the Western Conference. What's going on with them?
I got to be honest, it's really nice to hear disappointment in them from you all, just because our audience, there's still a lot of Pop disciples out there. Not that I have anything negative to say about him, but they're just at a place where so many people are kind of willing to trust the proverbial process, even though the iconic process still hasn't yielded even a conference finals appearance for Philadelphia. And so, I'd love to get a shot in against any Philly sports team when I can. And
as you should.
I mean, Wemby has been remarkable. I mean, it feels like every night he does something. We were talking about before we started recording the other night. against Toronto, he had the crazy behind the back assist, and he had that was against Dallas, sorry, but he had the 10 blocks, the triple double. That hadn't happened in forever, and happened by a rookie since David Robinson. And he's in this incredible company with all the things that he's managing to pull off statistically. And you would think that, just by his presence alone, that you would, be at more than 11 wins at the All-Star break, but they just have nothing around him. And, Pop is, I wouldn't say, past his prime or anything like that, but it does feel like they're just trying to recreate what they developed, in the original Spurs dynasty days. And it doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to go at this the same way you did Tim Duncan or David Robinson or anybody like that. We're at a place now where, he's great. He's this generational player and he needs help. Devin Vassell and Jeremy Sohan are just not the players who can help him get to the next place in life. And even then, Pop has allowed for an environment. The Spurs played the Pelicans a few weeks ago, and we always reference this game. And they were down and needed a game-winning shot and drew up a play for Wemby, and Devin Vassell took it. And in what universe is Devin Vassell of the mindset that the ball belongs in his hands over Wemby's, with the game on the line? But that culture has been allowed to kind of breathe this season. And a lot of us want to see Pop kind of just challenge the status quo a little bit more, which he's, not exactly been inclined to do so as of late.
Yeah, I feel like it's tough too with a star who seems as humble as Wemby is, where it's like, he's got to kind of grab the spotlight or, be put in a position by the staff to take it. I do want to ask too, I was going to ask, because I know you were tweeting about, all his highlights and being like, the fact he's not an all-star is absurd. So I was going to let you kind of sing your praises for Wemby, but you kind of already did that. And is that just kind of what has to change? Is it just, it needs to be kind of, I'm not forced onto him, but he just kind of needs to be like, all right, I'm the guy, we need to go from here. It's not this, weird kind of sharing.
If Pop's not going to cuss out Devin Vassell, then Wemby has to, right? Wemby has to be like, dude, you're Devin Vassell. I'm Wemby. I'm the person who gets the ball in these moments. And I do think that Wemby should have been an all-star. And I think it'll be fascinating to see, and this is something we've been talking about this week, is what the kind of national perception of him is after he's had a week in the national spotlight, what with all the all-star festivities and whatnot. But I think it's, it's not hard to see how he's not an all-star because his team sucks. And they're hurting him in that capacity. I mean, he's literally putting together this not just all-time rookie season, but just this all-time big man season that is just going to have been wasted. And I know I've knocked Devin Vassell and Jeremy Sohan and Trey Jones or whoever, but the vitriol that they're on the receiving end of is Pop's fault too. I mean, because they're not, capable enough players for the roles that they're in. I mean, the Spurs, this whole process, and that's such a frustrating word and a tired word to use for things like this, but this whole process rapidly accelerated the moment that they won the lottery last year. And so you have to be ready to act. You can't waste any time. You can't just assume that, next year you're going to trade for Trae Young or whoever, and it's going to work out. You can't squander years. And that's what's frustrating about this, is it feels like the Spurs are fine just kind of totally tossing it away.
Totally.
Let's talk about one of your better sports teams that you're following and maybe rooting for, and that's the Astros. I know it's a tough time for the Cowboys, even tougher for the Spurs, trying to get everything sorted out, but it feels like the Astros have things sorted out. Got Josh Hader. What are kind of your thoughts moving forward with Houston?
Yeah, I'm really excited for this Astros season. It was such an awkward ALCS for me, but with having a lot of, DFW fans who follow me for Cowboys content, it was just really, really difficult to kind of go through. And so what I admire and what I love about being, an Astros fan is Jim Crane gets it in ways like, if you ever want to see your team owner or whoever, GM, whatever role anybody kind of tends to be in, you want to see them, never settle and never be satisfied. And that is who the Astros are. They are Adam Driver in Star Wars, wanting more and more and more. And it makes being a fan of theirs so fun and so interesting. And so it's a bummer that Ryan Presley, can't be the man forever. But again, I respect that. I respect that the Astros are so cunning with their decision making. And every now and then you have an emotional decision, like holding on to Martin Maldonado as long as they did. Or, I mean, I wouldn't say that the Altuve extension is an emotional decision, but obviously there's an emotional component to it. But it's incredible to watch how they are so sustainable and how they never skip a beat, how they are truly inevitable. And the Chiefs obviously have gotten a lot of love in the NFL, but and I understand why people hate the Astros, obviously, but they are one of the highest marks of consistency that we've ever seen in professional sports in our lifetimes.
Definitely. And I know you've you referenced this the last time you were on. Kenny's kind of like got the market cornered sometimes on Astros prospects. Are there any Astros prospects? This is basically just a question only for you and Kenny. Any prospects that you've been following that maybe have caught your eye at all for the Astros?
No, I mean it's not. I haven't had quite the amount of time that I would like to dive into that. I'm still a little bit behind, even on like Astros podcasts and things like that. And Kenny that's where Kenny is such a valuable resource in terms of keeping me updated and abreast on all situations. I think that I'm always holding out hope for Forrest that things can finally turn around, but it just feels like it never will. That's the one kind of like, annual piece of devastation Astros fans have to feel like normal sports fans, where you are sad in some stretches. But if that's the price we have to pay, so be it. But I would gladly turn this to Kenny and have him tell me who I should be excited about.
That was going to be my follow-up. Kenny.
Yeah, you chose the right guy. This morning, Jim Callis of MLB Pipeline posted one prospect to watch for the Astros, and it's Forrest Whitley. If he's going to be a reliever moving forward, there's bullpen spots open, as we know. Guys like Ryan Stanek, Phil Maton, Hector Neris all left. There's an opportunity there for him, and he can still dial it up to 100, which is pretty incredible with how many injuries he's had. He can still sling it, and I think this could be the year that he finally breaks the major leagues. That's music to my ears.
There you go. Now Kenny gets to talk about the Astros. He doesn't normally get to do that until the summer on this show. RJ, I just have one more thing, and this kind of actually can be for all three of us, because I listened to our interview from a year ago, and it just makes me laugh how much the NFL changes in a year, because when we last had you on, I just kept some receipts. The following things were mentioned. I asked you about Zeke not jumping into the bucket during the Salvation Army bucket. We talked about Derek Carr possibly going to the Colts, and then picked a game, Carolina Panthers game, where Steve Wilkes was the head coach, and now he just got fired as the Niners OC. You also you said you had big expectations for the Texans, so congrats on being right on that prediction. But I just think it's, funny how, wild the NFL, kind of changes over a year. But any quick, way too early predictions for next season that you want to get right, like the Texans, and I don't know, maybe where Steve Wilkes will end up?
I mean, I would love for Steve Wilkes to wind up on Mike Zimmer's staff in Dallas. That's, kind of the catnip that everybody in Cowboys Twitter is chasing right now. I have such a soft spot for the Bears. I would love to see it finally work out for them. They're a Tiffany brand franchise in the NFL and such a cool city. And one of my dogs' name is Bear. His name is Bear. And so it's just, again, I feel a kinship to them. But I have to say, I think the Arizona Cardinals are probably going to be better than a lot of people thought. I think Jonathan Gannon maybe is a respectable head coach. Kyler Murray's maybe not totally and completely washed if they wind up with Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, all of a sudden, you could really kind of talk yourself into things working out for them. And if San Francisco does finally suffer some sort of regression, the NFC West is there for the taking. Not that they would win the division, but I'm interested. And I also need to apologize, because I thought that their uniforms were awful when they first debuted them. But as time wore on, they they look pretty good, and I'm willing to atone for my sins.
They grew. I was going to ask you, because you brought up Bear the last time we had you on too, and I was going to say, should they draft Caleb Williams, because that's Peyton's team, of course, too, and that's the big thing too.
Yeah, I would love to see that. As much as I love Justin Fields, and I would love to see him have success in a perfect world, Fields gets dealt to the Raiders or the Falcons or the Steelers or whoever, and he thrives. Caleb Williams thrives. My dog Bear continues to thrive. We also have a new puppy since I last spoke to you. Her name is Honey. And she's actually getting fixed today, so a bit of a tough day for Honey, but yeah, so she'll be all right. We've got the donut ready for her and everything. So I'm fine, Peyton, if the Bears want to become a competent franchise. Anybody but the Packers in the NFC North, please.
I'm with you there, believe me. I've been waiting my whole life for it, though, so we'll see.
I got one more question, just a fun one. I know when people go to Las Vegas or just any Super Bowl event, you run into some pretty cool people, even the ones that you're not talking to. Did you run into anyone at the hotel you were staying at, or just in the hallway elevator, and just were like, whoa, that's Tony Romo, that's blah, blah, blah?
I was not as impressed by this. The people I work with at the radio station are a generation above me. But Wayne Newton was rolling around, and everybody was just falling all over themselves for him. Again, not exactly my cup of tea. But greatness is greatness, and I'm cool with that. I will say it was just, and I think your generation probably gets this a little bit more than anything. It was so cool to see colleagues I've had or people I've worked with in person in a three-dimensional sense, because you interact with so many people. I mean, you all as an example over Zoom or StreamYard or whatever the case may be. And so to be able to shake hands and stuff like that was just, it felt like when you're in high school and you walk into like the cafeteria in the morning and you're just like seeing everybody, you know, and it's a cool kind of, setup for the day. It was nice to have that every day for a week.
Yeah, that's awesome. The consistency and it's
Right.
obviously so great because it's Super Bowl week. Everyone's dialed in.
Exactly.
Well, RJ, yeah. Thank you so much for coming on, RJ. I know you have to run, but we'll have you back on hopefully sooner rather than later. We'll see if some of those predictions come true. I know people want more Cowboys talk, and maybe we'll get your take on people get drafted for Mizzou because they got a couple guys like Peyton mentioned. But we appreciate it.
Anytime, y'all have my information, just let me know, and really appreciate it. You guys do such an incredible job, and appreciate you bringing up Bear. He's down a little bit. He misses Honey right now, so it's good to see him get a little bit of love.
Well, yeah, good for Hope Bear. Hope Bear's feeling better when Honey comes back. But yeah, thank you so much, RJ. We appreciate it. Okay, quick hits time. Start off with jerseys of the week. Jersey of the week, Kenny.
My jersey of the week goes to Mizzou signee Anor Boateng, who will be playing in the Iverson Classic in the next couple months. Iverson Classic announced this on February 7th, so over a week ago, that Anor Boateng will be an All-American in this game. He missed out on the McDonald's All-American game. We kind of talked about it, that if anyone was going to make it, we thought he would from that Mizzou class, but he still gets to play in a little postseason action before he heads out to Mizzou in the summer.
Yeah, we like showcase tournaments.
Yeah, that's pretty much all we have to look forward to at this point this season until the fall. Basketball-wise, yeah, good. I'm glad. Anor Boateng definitely seems to be like the crown jewel of this class, so it's good to see him.
I posted we posted the thing on Twitter where it was like the guy and the girl lying in bed and they're watching TV, but I just photoshopped the 2024 class because that's what we got to look forward to. So hopefully Anor balls out in that'll be cool. Peyton, jersey?
I got 2, and really it's like 31 technically. So the MLB has some new jerseys in tow. Kenny and I were discussing these. I'm not one to typically complain about what Nike has been doing, or Fanatics, or whoever's in charge of this with the jerseys. This one was the straw that broke the camel's back. The new jerseys look terrible, man. I mean, they look really bad. All the teams got new types of jerseys. They're iron-on numbers instead of sewn on. It all looks. They look like, someone put it best, they look like jerseys that you would get like just at the team store or something like that. And now they're actual jerseys. It's pretty damn embarrassing. These are the jerseys we have. Dansby Swanson was saying the Cubs ones weren't even Cubby blue, like they were an off type of blue. It's really nasty work. I get they maybe feel better for the players, but they should not look this bad at the expense of that.
I also read something that the pants aren't correct anymore. The players used to have like pants that would fit them, like they would just be custom to each player. Nike and Fanatics stopped doing that, so that's also something bad. The one thing that just looks dumb is that they moved the MLB logo down. They moved it from the top of the collar to below where the stripe would be on some jerseys, wherever the seam is. And it just looks stupid. I think it's just, they're just being cheap is what it feels like.
It's cheap and lazy for a sport that, just, I don't know, something about this in baseball in particular just feels so wrong, where there's just so much tradition with like uniform. It kind of grosses me out, the whole thing. But
the players seem mad. I'm like looking at this Athletic article, like players don't seem happy about it either.
Yeah, it sucks. Like the whole thing, like I try not to complain about stuff like this, but this is really disgusting.
Yeah.
He just went off camera to sneeze. My other jersey of the week, Steve Wilkes, App State, old friend of Mizzou, of course. He was the illustrious 2021 defensive coordinator. He was fired by the San Francisco 49ers. Quite frankly, that had been brewing. It wasn't just a Super Bowl decision. That defense underperformed for a lot of the year. I think that last drive in the Super Bowl was really kind of it. I mean, after they got that fourth down, Steve Wilkes was out of his mind. So he's looking for a new job again. Steve Wilkes, you want to be an analyst at Mizzou, I mean, come on down.
Well, I was thinking like when I saw that news, I was like, you know, I'm excited for Corey Batoon, but I was like, what if Mizzou didn't hire their DC yet after that happened?
I would not be advocating for a Wilkes return.
That's what Drinkwitz was waiting on. He was hoping the 49ers would get bounced and he could make his hiring a little bit early, but he had to opt for the South Alabama defensive coordinator.
I'm excited about Corey Batoon. I'm not gonna, be out on that. But I don't know, Steve. I always I was watching the Super Bowl with friends who we're not Mizzou people, but every time Steve Wilkes would come on screen, I'd just be like, "It's Steve Wilkes for Mizzou DC. It's Steve Wilkes." I don't know. You gotta brag about it. My jersey of the week, Kenny and Peyton, you guys. Mizzou softball is so back. I'm giving it to Lauren Krings specifically. Of the Mizzou softball team. We really could have given it to anybody after the start of the season that they've had. But Krings, she went 3-0 with a 1.47 ERA and 20 strikeouts in 19 innings as the Tigers were participating in the leadoff classic in Clearwater, Florida. Mizzou is 5-0. They started the season unranked. Now they're 5-0. They beat Clemson, which was, I think, they're ranked 5th, and Utah ranked 13th, and now Mizzou is 15th in the country. I'm excited for this. Softball was really good when we were in college the last couple of years. They're fun to go to. They're a fun team. Lauren Krings is clearly having a bright start to the year. I don't know. I'm excited. I remember when they got bounced by that that red hot James Madison team a couple of years ago, and I was like, I want this team to go to the College World Series. But yeah, we'll definitely have some softball updates as the summer goes on because it seems like they're primed for a good year.
The rumors of Larissa Anderson's demise last year were greatly exaggerated. If you're looking for a program to distract you from basketball, this is probably the one, and probably wrestling to finish out the year, although they've just lost a couple dual matches. Baseball starts this week as well. I don't know, man. Just please do not watch the basketball team anymore.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm excited. I think Mizzou softball is going to have a great year. It might be my favorite stadium on campus. I like the softball stadium.
It was the most recent one.
It is the newest. I guess that's kind of not fair. But yeah, shout out Lauren Krings, shout out Mizzou softball. Hopefully they can keep it rolling here in the early part of the season. Sean East, what's next?
I like no capping. He's the main bird.
Sean East, main bird of the week, Kenny.
My Sean East main bird of the week goes to an old friend. Bush Hamdan is back in the SEC, working for the Kentucky Wildcats. As the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, he was named to those positions on Wednesday. And it feels just like yesterday. We had Mike Prater and John Mallory on the show to talk about him and talk about Kirby Moore as well, just the connections between Mizzou and Boise State. And now he's back in the SEC, just needed one season off. Some people forget he also interviewed for the quarterbacks coach position with the Chiefs when he took the job at Boise State to be the offensive coordinator, went back to his roots.
That's
of course,
right.
played at Boise State, back in the SEC, not facing the Tigers this year, but it'd be pretty cool to maybe face them down the line.
I know you were smiling somewhere, Kenny, when this news broke. You've been the Bush Hamdan plug for a while. Of course, that one season Kenny was on the Missourian beat, there was the whole Bush Hamdan calling plays thing late in the season, even though they wouldn't admit it. And then they eventually wound up admitting it. So, Kenny, I'm happy for you.
Thank you. And his connection to birds, I meant to mention this, is that he was the quarterbacks coach in 2017 for the Atlanta Falcons. How did that season end, Bush?
Oh, hey, it wasn't his fault. Shanahan. Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited. I'm happy for Bush Hamdan. I did the one time I filled in for you, Kenny, on the football beat. I talked to Bush Hamdan. He was very nice. So I will good for him
more than I did, because he was never allowed to talk to the media during the season.
I forgot.
Also, 2017 was the Super Bowl year, so yeah, he was 1 year behind the Super Bowl. So he was just a part of a team that finished.
Oh, you're right.
In the NFC South.
Yeah, I had that backwards. It's confusing when the Super Bowl is in 2017, but it's not the 2017 season. It trips you up. My main bird of the week, speaking of Mizzou coaching staff, is Eli Drinkwitz, the head coach of Mizzou. My connection to him for birds is that he worked for Auburn. They say War Eagle. You know how it is. Oh, I skipped Peyton. Sorry, Peyton, I skipped you.
Yeah,
Sorry.
dude.
I
mean, you might as well have just kept on going with it.
Me. You were like shaking your head. I was like, what
no, I'm trying to mute myself during it. Well, once you started, I mean, it would have been unprofessional. But now that you've stopped yourself,
I don't think we consider
the real main bird, that's your problem, Jack. You don't take this serious. No, I'm kidding. The real main bird of the week, before that Eli Drinkwitz stuff, is Brett McMurphy. If you're wondering what his connection to birds is, he puts birds in bowl projections. So there you go. He's a bird keeper of sorts. He came out with his way too early bowl projections yesterday. And folks, he has the Missouri Tigers ranked number 8 at the end of the year and hosting a playoff game against the Penn State Nittany Lions on December 20th. Rest assured, if that happened, there would not be any amount of money and any amount of prior obligations that I would not forego to be there. I would 1,000% be in attendance for that. That's the dream, man. This is the year for Missouri. I mean, if it's going to happen, it should be this year.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm like really looking forward to all season. If Missouri, does live up, is just the bowl projections we're going to get week on week on. Like to see them come out already in February. Like it was just so nice to see, especially given that they were in the playoff. But yeah, I would certainly try my best to be there. Penn State to be a fun SEC Big Ten clash. I'm also just so excited, like with the new playoff, to see the host sites. Like I think that's going to be such a cool thing to have, a playoff game, hosted by one of the favored seeds. The fans, the students are just going to be crazy. Like, can you imagine Columbia would just shut down in the middle of December for Mizzou? The understudy wouldn't be able to stop selling $3 bush lights. I mean, it would just be outrageous.
It'd be $4 by then.
Yeah, more inflation. Okay, sorry, Hayden. My main bird of the week. We're finally coming back to Eli Drinkwitz. Kenny talked about it in the opening, and then I rudely cut off Peyton before he could do his main bird. Eli Drinkwitz is mine. He worked at Auburn, War Eagle, whatever. You can make all the bird connections you want. Kenny talked about it. Peyton posted a meme in response to Robert Trombley, who is the Mizzou football. He was the video coordinator. He edited all the mini movies together, which fans really loved. And he's leaving. He's departing the program. Said he wanted to be close to his family and whatnot. Obviously, good for him. Best of luck on whatever he does. We, as a Mizzou fan collective, are very bummed of this news because the mini movies were great. Obviously, with the expectation next season, if it's going to be as electric as we think it is, those mini movies would go hard. Hopefully, they bring someone in that can kind of continue to capture the magic that Robert did. Anyway, all this to say, Peyton posted a meme. It's the one from Avengers where it's Peyton photoshopped it to say, "Did you keep Kirby Moore?" with Eli Drinkwitz as Thanos saying yes. What did it cost? Eli saying Robert Trombley's vision of the mini movies. Eli Drinkwitz quote tweeted that with 2 laughing emojis. So Eli Drinkwitz, officially a friend of the show. We will try and have him on next week.
Hit my line if you need
that's a lie.
Yeah. Hit my line if you need a social media coordinator drink.
Yeah.
He also retweeted a post from Barstool Mizzou that says, "I love you very much," and it's Barry Odom on the graphic. That's pretty fun.
He had some time on his hands, didn't he?
Yeah. Did he ever talk to Barry Odom? There's no way he ever said a word to Barry Odom.
Maybe when they played Arkansas, it was definitely
I guess that's true.
Yeah. I do love that we have a Lane Kiffin. Like both of those tweets just feel very Lane Kiffin-y. And it's like in terms of a social media presence, I like that we have our own Lane Kiffin. But yeah, thanks for the quote tweet drink. We appreciate it. If you would like to come on the show, you're welcome anytime. Maybe we'll see if we can fit you in. I don't know. We're busy
talk
people.
To our publicist drink.
Yeah. We'll have our people talk to your people. Anyway, best things we learned this week, Peyton. What was the best thing you learned?
Best thing I learned this week, as Knowlton alluded to earlier, we talked about it a little. Detroit Mercy, who came into the game against IUPUI, the Jaguars, 0-27.
Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis.
Yep. They finally got on the board. They trounced IUPUI. Got their first win of the season. One lonely fan took it upon himself to storm the court. It was pandemonium in Mercyville. Detroit was celebrating that one. Good for the Titans. Yep, there you go. That's it. They have a one-man court storm.
I saw a debate on this on Twitter. Does it count as a court storm if only one guy was out there?
That guy stormed the court.
I say yes. Counts. I thought he was a coach when I first saw it because
I did too. I thought it was a player.
Nicely.
I thought it was a player messing around. Totally thought it was a player
storming their own court after they win. No fans, just the players. Like
Missouri fans should do this, by the way, if they win at home.
Yeah. For the record, the only remaining team with no wins now is Mississippi Valley State. The Delta Devils are 0-24, ranked dead last in KenPom. So hopefully they can pick up a win there in SWAC play. Kenny, what'd you learn this week?
Well, what I learned this week goes out to two reoccurring guests. We haven't had the other one on for a second time yet, but we know he will be on sometime soon. But first one goes out to Max Chadwick, who announced his top 10 returning quarterbacks in college football for the 2024 season on Wednesday, on Valentine's Day. And he became my Valentine because he put Brady Cook at number 10. Well, what a spot for Brady Cook. We joked around with him, when are the Brady Cook projections for the Heisman going to come in at the beginning of the start of last season? Now Brady Cook is number 10 on his returning quarterbacks. That's what you like to see. My second one goes out to Troy Johnston, the Marlins prospect who we had on with us. What a great conversation he was last summer. He has his own podcast now. We influenced him. It's Turn 2 with Scott and Troy, a Jumbo Shrimp podcast. In my humble opinion, I hope he doesn't get to do this podcast for long. I think it's ridiculous.
I was going to say,
not in Major League Baseball yet.
Yeah, are they going to let him do that when he gets called up? Like what?
I don't think he'll have enough time to do it when he gets called up, and I hope he doesn't get to do it for long. Troy is excelled in minor league baseball last year, was the Marlins minor league player of the year. It's time for him to see the major leagues.
Yeah.
I have a bold take. I think both of these people will be back on the show at some point. Bold.
Yeah, we'll get Troy back on. We'll get Troy back on. Yeah, it was outrageous following him. Like we were retweeting, I swear, like weekly his hitting stats because they just were off the charts. He didn't get the call. I don't know much about baseball, but I thought that was absurd. He needs to get the call up. We need Miami Marlins, Troy Johnston, and go watch that interview.
His biggest stop, Kim Ng, is out of the way. He'll be called up soon.
Yeah, someone will get a deal. Go watch that interview from the summer. It was very good.
January 2nd, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to go back and look at his stats real quick as well and see what his OPS was from June 2nd and on. Here are his numbers. It is loading. Baseball Reference is slow. And 972 OPS from June 2nd to September 23rd. Absolute rake in Troy Johnston's hands. Give us credit. 327 batting average for all you old heads as well.
I was going to say that's a message to all athletes. If you come on the show, you will do better in your sport as a result. We are 1 for 1.
Josh Wolf?
Yeah, Josh Wolf.
Yeah. WBC after talking with us.
Yep. So 2 for 2 on athletes coming on that do better in their sports. Yeah. My best thing I learned this week, guys, this is big news in the college football world. EA Sports college football is coming back. We already kind of knew that, but they made it sort of official today. It's going to come back in the summertime. They changed the Twitter account. They posted a cool video with the guy at the Rose Bowl, talking about it. And they showed some renderings from them making the game. I know a lot of people on Twitter were super excited. I'm excited. This is something, I haven't been video gaming as much, in the recent months, but this would be something that I would get, a new game system for, get back into it. I'm excited. And when Luther Burden's on the cover, that'll be even cooler.
Right. I was happy about that. I'm not going to lie. I lost faith when they didn't have the trailer during the national championship game. I was like, nope, this is not releasing this year because we had heard nothing about it, but here it is. It's coming out this summer, man. I'm excited as well. I will definitely. There will be like a few days where this is all I will play.
Yeah. If you don't,
Who do you guys think? Who do you guys think is going to be on the cover?
If Colorado had made a bowl, I would have said Shedeur.
I was gonna say Shedeur, but
I don't think it'll be him now. I'm gonna
Carson Beck.
Because no, definitely not Carson Beck.
I guess he doesn't have that much pull.
See, I would say like someone that's not coming back, like Jaden Daniels, but now they can have it be a guy that's coming back.
Yeah.
Who's like the biggest returning star this year, though? Maybe it is
Milroe.
Oh no, it can't.
Not Jalen.
I don't think so.
I could see it being Jaden Daniels, and then because he's had such a good year last year, and like especially if he gets like drafted high and stuff, and I could just see them going with him.
It's tough. I kind of still want to say Shedeur just because Colorado was that big a deal.
Just him in prime.
Whether you like it or not, I mean, they were box office. People were watching every week.
EA's been pretty chalk, probably the last 5 years with their cover athletes, especially on the NFL level. I think they would go pretty chalk with the first one, and I think they would just give it to the Heisman winner of the previous year.
Yeah.
You see, like, I mean, there are some games out there like The Show, and I know that's not EA, but they're starting to bridge off into just kind of giving a lot of people spotlight and not just give it to Ohtani, Judge, whoever had the best season, and giving it to a guy like Yaz Chisholm. So I think that would be fun down the line, kind of getting back into those, giving it to a guy that probably isn't the largest name, but he's still a premier player and he's going to go to the NFL.
I also don't hate it when it's like a player that plays the game too and gets like really into like being the cover star. Like some of these guys, they might be like, well, I don't really play Madden now. Like I don't care, but some of them still do. So it's like it'd be cool if it's someone like that, especially with college kids. They're more likely to play. Maybe my vote's Jaden Daniels. It should be Luther Burden or Cody Schrader. Do you want the best story in college football?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm just saying
that would be a Peyton Hillis cover.
I want a still of Drink shaking Josh Heupel's hands and saying we stand on business. Just that like grainy photo.
A grainy photo.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if they do a departing player, I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. kind of makes sense too. That's kind of actually, I think I'm going to change my guess to him. Marvin Harrison Jr. is my guess.
Yeah. Oh, Marvin Harrison?
Yeah.
I could play. Yeah.
No, the other guy I was just talking about.
No. Okay, never mind.
This one comes from our favorite TV series, The Today Show. Guys, I went to buy a pair of camouflage pants. I couldn't find any.
Kenny, you can't not laugh at that. You have the Crocs.
I laughed. It was funny.
Go get the Crocs. Or I guess it's pointless. No one will see them. He's got. Oh, dude, why are you?
Oh my God, he's got them on.
Dude, why aren't you wearing any shoes while we're recording? That's a little weird.
Nice socks, dude.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Everyone go to the YouTube. Oh, the last thing I was going to say on the college football. This is a plea to Bet Online, our sponsor. Have put some odds in there for who's going to be the cover athlete. Let the people bet on him, and put Luther Burden in there because I asked. Anyway, we'll end the show. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back Monday. We'll recap Mizzou men's basketball. We'll see if any football stuff kind of pops up as well. Keep following all that stuff. And yeah, keep on the lookout now that we're kind of in February. Obviously, we'll gear up. We'll do a lot of March Madness stuff still, even though Mizzou's not in it just because March Madness rocks as that gets underway. But yeah, we'll have some great guests on, even non-Mizzou related, just some fun people to talk to, some good interviews for you guys. So stay tuned for all those. Thanks to Bet Online for sponsoring the show. We will see you guys on Monday.